still can't believe it happened, even now, years later. My own parents, the two people who were supposed to protect and love me unconditionally, just left me. Alone. In a hospital. All because my sister spun a web of lies and they believed her without a second thought. They truly had no idea that Grandma saw everything, heard every word, every cruel dismissal, and every single time they chose my sister over me. Was I wrong for cutting them out of my life completely after that day? Tell me, honestly, would you have done the same thing? Let me take you back to the beginning, to a time when I still thought I had a family, a home where I belonged. My name is Alex, and I was always the quieter, more studious one, while my sister, Sarah, was the golden child. Sarah was vivacious, charming, and knew how to work a room and my parents. From a young age, it was clear that Sarah could do no wrong in their eyes, and I was just there. Every achievement of mine was met with a lukewarm "that's nice," while Sarah's smallest success was celebrated with parades. It wasn't just favoritism, it was an active dismissal of my existence. I remember one time, I won a regional science fair, and my parents barely looked up from their phones. Later that week, Sarah got a B+ on a pop quiz, and they took her out for ice cream and a movie. It was a constant pattern, a slow, steady erosion of my self-worth. I tried to talk to them about it, tried to explain how I felt, but it always ended with "don't be jealous, Alex," or "Sarah just needs a little more attention right now." Grandma, my mother's mother, was the only one who truly saw it, the only one who ever truly saw *me*. She lived with us, a quiet observer with a sharp mind and an even sharper wit. She'd often slip me an extra cookie or a knowing wink when my parents were particularly egregious in their favoritism, a small solace in my otherwise lonely world. The incident that ultimately shattered our family, that pushed me to a point of no return, started innocently enough. Sarah and I were arguing as siblings do. She wanted to borrow my new expensive art tablet for a school project. I had just gotten it, and I was hesitant because Sarah had a history of being careless with my belongings. She broken my headphones, spilled juice on my favorite book, and lost my Lucky Charm bracelet. I told her no, gently at first, explaining that I needed it for my own project and didn't want anything to happen to it. That's when her charm turned into a sneer. She started yelling, calling me selfish, accusing me of never wanting her to succeed. The argument escalated quickly, as it always did with Sarah when she didn't get her way. She lunged for the tablet, and in the struggle I tripped, hitting my head hard on the corner of the coffee table. The last thing I remember seeing before everything went black was Sarah's shocked face, quickly replaced by a calculating look. I woke up in a sterile hospital room, a throbbing pain in my temple and a blinding white light overhead. My head was bandaged and I felt disoriented. My parents were there, thankfully, sitting by my bedside. For a moment, a wave of relief washed over me. They were here. They cared. But that feeling quickly evaporated when I heard what they were saying. My mother was stroking Sarah's hair, who was sitting next to her, looking tearful. "My poor baby," my mother cooed. "I can't believe Alex would push you like that." My father nodded gravely. "Yes, Alex, what were you thinking? Sarah told us you deliberately shoved her, causing her to fall and you to hit your head." My blood ran cold. Sarah had twisted the entire narrative. She had told them I had pushed *her*, and in doing so, *I had fallen. It was a complete fabrication, a blatant lie, and my parents were swallowing it whole. I tried to speak, tried to protest, but the words wouldn't come out right away, my head still fuzzy from the impact. When I finally managed to croak out, "That's not what happened. Sarah tried to grab my tablet and I fell." My mother merely sighed dramatically. "Alex, why do you always have to make things up? Sarah is clearly distraught." Sarah, ever the actress, dissolved into fresh tears, burying her face in my mother's shoulder. My father just shook his head, looking at me with an expression of profound disappointment. "We're very disappointed in you, Alex. Sarah is so upset that she can't even focus on her project now. This is all your fault." They stayed for a little while longer, lecturing me about my supposed temper and my jealousy of Sarah. They talked about Sarah's well-being, her distress, her upcoming school project, but not once did they ask if I was okay. Not once did they express concern for my injury. It was all about Sarah, as it always was. Eventually, a nurse came in to check on me. My parents used it as an excuse to leave. "We need to go home and make sure Sarah is all right," my mother said, gathering her purse. "We'll be back later, Alex, once we've calmed Sarah down." My father nodded in agreement. Try to get some rest and think about what you've done. And then they left. They just walked out, leaving me alone in that hospital room. No hug, no I love you, no reassurance that they'd be back soon, just a cold dismissal. I lay there, staring at the closed door, tears silently streaming down my face. My parents had abandoned me, literally and figuratively. They had chosen Sarah's fabricated distress over my actual injury, over my truth, over me. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. I was lying in a hospital bed, abandoned by the people who were supposed to be my protectors, all because of a lie my sister told. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have forgiven them? Would you have tried to make amends? Or would you have drawn a line in the sand, just as I was about to? I lay there for what felt like an eternity, the pain in my head a dull roar, but the ache in my heart far worse. The nurse eventually came back, noticed my tears, and tried to comfort me. I told her through choked sobs that my parents had left, and she looked genuinely concerned, saying she'd contact them. I just shook my head. Don't bother, I whispered, the words tasting like ash. It was then, as I was drowning in my misery, that I heard a voice. A familiar, strong voice laced with fury. You heartless, disgraceful excuses for parents. It was Grandma. She was standing in the doorway, leaning on her cane, her eyes blazing with an intensity I'd rarely seen. She looked at me, then back down the hallway, her jaw set. My parents, thinking I was asleep or too out of it to notice, had continued their conversation just outside my room, believing no one else was listening. They had been talking about Sarah's distress, about how much trouble I always caused, and how I was always making things up for attention. They had no idea Grandma had been waiting in the hospital lounge, having taken a taxi there the moment she heard about my accident, and had overheard their entire callous exchange. She had heard them dismiss my injury, heard them blame me, and most damningly, heard them express their intention to leave me alone, all for Sarah's comfort. Grandma walked over to my bed, her movements slow but determined. She gently stroked my hair, her touch a balm to my wounded soul. Oh, my sweet girl, she murmured. I heard everything, every single word they said. Then she turned, her gaze fixed on the doorway where my parents had disappeared. She took out her phone. You think you can just abandon your child, do you? Think you can choose one over the other based on a blatant lie? We'll see about that. My parents returned about an hour later, looking sheepish. The nurse had in fact contacted them, expressing her concern about a minor being left unattended. When they walked into the room, they froze. Grandma was sitting by my bedside, her arms crossed, an unreadable expression on her face. My mother stammered, Mom, what are you doing here? Grandma simply raised an eyebrow. I'm here for my grandchild, the one you seem to have forgotten about. Then she dropped the bombshell. I heard everything. I heard Sarah lie, and I heard you both swallow it whole. I heard you blame Alex, and I heard you decide to leave her here alone. My parents' faces went white. My father tried to bluster. Mom, you don't understand, Alex pushed Sarah. Grandma scoffed. Oh, I understand perfectly. I saw the whole thing unfold from the living room. I saw Sarah grab for the tablet, I saw Alex trip and fall, and I saw Sarah's malicious grin as she decided to twist the story. I was sitting right there, invisible to you all as always, and I witnessed every disgusting moment. My parents were speechless. Their carefully constructed narrative, their unwavering belief in Sarah had crumbled. Grandma wasn't just a quiet observer, she was a witness. A very, very credible witness. She continued, her voice gaining strength. And then to hear you talk about leaving your injured daughter alone in a hospital because your other daughter was distraught over her own lie. It's beyond contempt. It's monstrous. My mother started to cry, real tears this time, but I felt nothing for her. My father looked like he'd been punched. Grandma then turned to me. Alex, darling, you have a choice. You can forgive them for this unforgivable act, or you can choose your own path. She looked back at my parents. As for me, I'm taking Alex with me. She'll be living with me from now on. You've proven yourselves unfit to care for her. My parents protested, of course. They suddenly found their voices, pleading, begging, trying to justify their actions. But Grandma was unwavering. You made your bed, now lie in it. You chose Sarah. You abandoned Alex. The consequences are yours to bear. And that was it. The very next day, after I was discharged, I went home, packed a single bag, and moved in with Grandma. My parents tried to call, tried to visit, but Grandma screened all their calls and turned them away at the door. I refused to speak to them. Sarah also tried to reach out, initially with apologies, then with anger when she realized her tactics weren't working on me anymore. The truth was, I felt a profound sense of peace. The constant striving for their approval, the endless comparisons to Sarah, the feeling of being invisible, it was all gone. Grandma gave me the love and validation I had always craved. She enrolled me in a new school where I thrived. She encouraged my art, bought me supplies, and always listened. My parents and Sarah eventually faded into the background of my life. I heard through distant relatives that they tried to mend things, but it was too little, too late. The wound they inflicted was too deep, and the trust was irrevocably broken. I've built a new life, a happy life, surrounded by people who genuinely care about me. Grandma passed away a few years ago, peacefully in her sleep, knowing she had given me a second chance at happiness. I still miss her every day, but I carry her strength and her love with me. So here I am, sharing my story. It's been a long journey, filled with pain and ultimately healing. My parents made their choice that day in the hospital, and I made mine. I chose myself. I chose my peace. If you were on my side in this whole mess, please like this video. Subscribe for more stories like this, and share your final thoughts on this whole ordeal in the comments section below. I'll see you all in the next story.